Let's get started. Right, I wanted to, just because I know there's quite a few new faces with us today, and just in case you're not familiar with Money Tree Fundraising, who are the brains behind these Let's Chat sessions, I just wanted to give you a quick overview of who we are and what we do. So for more than 14 years, Money Tree Fundraising has been supporting organisations like yours to secure the income you need to thrive. That's through strategic donor-focused trust fundraising, major donor fundraising, and capital appeals. We work with fundraisers across the UK delivering training, consultancy and practical support. At the minute I'm working with some organisations to provide interim support. We do pipeline building for you. We do your trust fundraising kind of team overview, have a look at suggestions if there's anything that you can do to help improve that, any support that you might need, even with applications. We're doing it at the minute, a big reaching communities application. So there's lots of ways that we can help you. So if you're interested in finding out any more, all our contact details will be available at the end of the webinar, and our website address is on the screen, so you can go along and get in touch with us and see if there's anything we can do to help you. And who am I? Again, for people who haven't been to one of these Let's Chats before, I'm Stacey, and I've been working in fundraising for 20 years, many of them as a trust fundraiser. As we all tend to do in fundraising, we can wear many, many hats. I've done corporates, I've done legacies, I've done major donors, but there's always been an element of trust fundraising in everything that I've done. I'm now a trust fundraising consultant at Money Tree Fundraising, and I'm helping organisations like yours access high value fundraising from trusts. So that's just a little bit about me. Please do connect with me on LinkedIn. I always enjoy keeping in touch with you all, and I try and let you know what's going on in the sector as well. We're still letting people in, amazing. So before we get started properly, I wanted to give you a quick heads up on the Trust and Major Donor Conference that's coming up on the 11th of December by Fundraising Everywhere. There's lots of great sessions, and I'll be co-hosting a session on becoming an accounts detective. Now that might not sound very interesting, but I can promise you that it really will be. And we'll be digging into trust accounts, how to spot red flags, hidden opportunities, and maybe some up and coming trends that we can spot by having a look at trust accounts year on year and seeing if there's anything we can see that might give us a little nudge ahead about what might be happening. So really, really interesting. Tickets for the conference are £75. It's completely online, and you can dip in and out of the sessions that you're interested in. All of the sessions available are listed on their website, so you can see what there is and whether there's anything suitable for you before you pay to join. I'll post the link in the comments now, so you can go and have a look. And we do have a Money Tree Fundraising discount code, which is on the screen, MoneyTree15, and you'll get 15% off. So here's the conference link if anybody wants to go and have a little look. It's definitely worth at least having a look and seeing if there's anything on the session list that might be interested for you. And I hope to see lots of you at the session that we'll be running as well. So as we head into autumn, I always find trust fundraising really starts to ramp up, particularly after what can often be a quieter August. Many funders are working to distribute grants before their year-end deadlines. Some are only opening for the first time at this time of year. And I don't know about you, but I can already feel the pressure of Christmas is pressing down like it's a deadline, even though it's not. The world carries on after Christmas. But especially if your charity's year end is in December, that can just heighten the way that you're feeling around this time of year. So today we're going to look at some fresh data on success rates. I'll share some top tips for you for keeping your strategy sharp this season. And we can talk about how to manage challenges like tighter deadlines. Think of this as a bit of a strategy refresh to set you up for the months ahead. As always, your input is really, really invaluable. So please feel free to share your ideas and perspectives. There will be a chance for kind of proper Q&As at the end, but please, if there's anything that comes up from when I'm talking, please put your questions, your ideas, your perspectives into the chat, because that's really, really important. Thank you, Nicole. I was just going to look for that Money Tree discount for you to answer Joanna's question, but Nicole beat me to it, which is amazing. That's why I love you guys. You're so helpful. That was really helpful. I was thinking, where did I put that other than in the presentation? So that's amazing. Thanks so much. So I don't know if you've all had a chance to see Caroline Dank's really excellent Lark Owl report, where she shared some new insights on trust fundraising success rates. And I really think these add some great context to what's happening in our sector at the moment, and why investing in trust fundraising is still really, really valuable and valid, despite how it might feel out there for us at the minute. So the average success rate across established trust fundraising programs is 41%. So around 2 in 5 applications succeed. The key word here is that this is an established programs, and context really, really matters. Newer programs, niche causes, or cold profiles and portfolios will naturally see lower rates, and that's okay. It's about taking this information as kind of a baseline benchmark and using it to assess where you are on the scale, taking into consideration all those factors, the experience of your team, the access that you have to what you need to be able to fundraise through trusts. Are you a niche cause? You know, if you're comparing yourself to a big national cancer organisation that has lots and lots of trust fundraisers in place and lots of potential profile to reach out to some of these trusts, and comparing yourself to a small befriending program, then your success rates are going to be completely different. So it's bearing this information in mind, but putting it into context for how your organisation works and what's going on for you. The really striking finding, I think, is the difference between cold and warm approaches. Cold bids succeed around 24% of the time, which doesn't mean they're not worth doing. It just means, is that the best place for you to put your time and energy? But if you're approaching an existing supporter, your success rate jumps to 63%. That's nearly 3 times as likely, which is a powerful reminder, I think, of why good stewardship and relationships really matter in trust fundraising more than ever before. You know, I've talked about this if you've joined us before in a Let's Chat. You know, in the 20 years that I've been in trust fundraising, when I first started, picking up the phone to speak to a trust was unheard of. You were either gate-kept by a solicitor, or you just couldn't get past that kind of gatekeeper to speak to anybody, and building relationships just wasn't a thing. You'd send your application in, it was a yes or it was a no. That's really, really changed, and for me that's the biggest change that I've seen in trust fundraising, is that building those relationships and getting yourself out there is absolutely the way to go now, and something that we should all do. It's not quite the same as major donor, but it's taking some of those elements from major donor programs and building those relationships and folding that into trust fundraising, which I think is really interesting. We also had Lucy Stone has also gathered some funder level data that Caroline makes reference to in her report. So Lucy looked at 69 funders and found that 38% awarded grants at 10% or less success rate, 27% awarded between 11 and 23%, and only 13% awarded 50% plus. Now that could be that there was a large grant maker who gave out lots and lots of small grants, so that he had a higher success rate for everybody who applied, or it could have been a smaller funder that only gave, didn't receive as many applications, so only gave out a small amount, but because they didn't get as many applications, it skewed the figures that way. You've got to take everything in context. But that tells us the reality. Yes, it's really competitive out there, but strong relationship-led programs can really stand out. This is why investing time in researching those funders to make sure they're a good fit and then taking the time to reach out and build those relationships is really critical. And I think this information is really handy if you're having those internal conversations about your return on investment, you're setting your new KPIs for coming up for the year, or you're refreshing them as you're reviewing them as you're going through. This kind of information really helps bring some context into why you might need some investment. It's not necessarily monetary investment. It can just be investment in terms of giving you time to build those relationships, to do this really good kind of portfolio work, and making sure that you have built that time into building your pipeline, doing that research. I think this is really good information to have. Thank you, Tracy, for sharing the link to the Lark Owl. It was in my next slide to do that too, so you beat me to it. So thank you so much. I know someone, Caroline, has just asked for that link, so thank you for sharing that. That's really helpful. It's a really good report. So the headline from all this data is really clear, I think. Relationships drive success. Cold applications aren't impossible, because how do we build our portfolio if we can't make those cold applications? But they really are harder to land. We've seen that information, 24% of cold applications are successful. It makes your stewardship, all the stewardship work that you're doing, visibility and relationship building even more valuable. And importantly, and we hear this a lot, I know a lot of you have said to me that you feel the pressure to send out more applications to get more responses. But this shows us that sending more applications doesn't automatically mean you'll raise more money. In fact, focusing on fewer, higher quality, well-aligned bids and stewarding those relationships is likely to deliver better results in the long run. So thank you, Tracy, again for sharing the link to Caroline's report. I really, really do encourage you to read the full article. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. How do these stats feel in context with your own programs? Do they feel daunting or reassuring? Can you see how you could use them internally to help your case? Do they help you make that case for some more investment, be in that training, more time to do your research, to build those applications? How are we feeling about these statistics that Caroline's put out there? I think they're great to help you put, we hear a lot of doom and gloom, don't we, in trust? And I'm not saying that it's absolutely not hard at the minute. It absolutely is. Competition is really tough. In trust fundraising, but do these help put it into context a little bit? Does it help make you feel a bit better about what's going on out there? How do you think you might use them? I'd love to hear your thoughts on these. Feel free to come on the camera if you want to, or drop your thoughts and feelings in the chat. I'm just going to quickly have a look through the chat and make sure I haven't missed anything here. Amazing. So Nicola said our success rate has dropped this year and is lower than 41%, and that's fine. That's fine. We a baseline benchmark is always all well and good, and it's something for us to think about when we're aspiring or looking at what we're doing. But that context is really, really important. Maybe you've had capacity cut in your team, so that's led to your trust success rate going lower. Maybe some of the big players that you would normally get funding from have closed, have changed their strategy, and now you don't fit it. Maybe it can be something as simple as your income has gone over the threshold. Sometimes when we hit £1 million, £10 million, that can change the trust that we're allowed to go after. So it's all about taking this information, which is really valuable, but putting it into context for your own circumstances and situation. Just taking anything off the shelf and trying to make it fit never works, does it? We always have to look at it in the context of what's happening. It's just good to see what's going on out there and kind of what the landscape is showing us through these is obtainable. But again, it's looking at it and putting it into what fits for us. So we're not beating ourselves over the head with this, this benchmark figure, but we're looking at it in context. So Nicole said exactly the income. We're struggling to find funders who will consider us since our income increased last year. And that's something that I often see, sometimes when I'm talking to clients, people that I'm working with, and they're aspiring to get over that £1 million threshold, which is fantastic. But trust fundraising does become harder once you hit that £1 million. We're seeing a lot of funders at the minute who are changing their strategy and only looking at organisations that are under £1 million or even smaller sometimes, because they think by putting their kind of grants and their money into those, they're doing more grassroots work, which can absolutely be the case. But there's a case for it either way. Some of the big national charities can use that money more effectively, more efficiently, because it's spread over lots of different places. Everything can be looked at in context, can't it? So Julian says, charity where I am a trustee, big hit to income due to a change in expected timeline from a potential major funder. Assumptions are dangerous, but it's the hope that really hurts. Oh, aren't we always hopeful? We wouldn't be in fundraising, let alone trust fundraising, if we weren't hopeful, were we? I think that's what keeps us going. How many times have we heard, when I do trust fundraising, I tend to think after 6 months, if I don't hear back from an application, that we haven't won it, and I would move it from my pipeline and it would go back into the stewardship research part, ready for another go in another 6 months' time. But you always hear about that one that comes back to you after 8, 9, 10, 14 months from that one application you spent ages ago. So that's why we are hopeful as trust fundraisers. We are, if nothing but try to be optimistic. Every time we put an application out there, we go, yep, that's going to come back. That's going to be a good one. So we have absolutely got that hope, haven't we? So I hope what sharing these has done is give you something that you can use internally, like I said, that you can kind of use it to have some context to what you're doing, that, you don't beat yourself up about, trying to hit these benchmarks that we see out there. Instead, you use it as a jumping off point to have a look at your program and see where you're missing, see what you can do, see what's relevant and in context for you to be able to achieve. But I just thought these were really interesting stats for us all to have a look at, and also to show that building those relationships and taking that time and not having this scattergun approach to trust applications is what's paying off for people, and getting them that funding. It's obviously not a magic wand by any means, but it's just a place for us to think and reassess. So what do we do with all this information in a really practical way? What I like to do with if any of you have been to any of the webinars I do, is give you practical tips from all of the information I share, that you can leave this Let's Chat today with real practical things that you can go away and think about. So for autumn, my tips would be: make time to reassess and refresh your pipeline. Look at where your focus is. Are you applying to the right funders, or are you guessing at some in your pipeline? So again, it goes back to that scattergun approach. Are there some where you're just trying? Are they ones that say they don't accept an unsolicited appeal, but you're going to send something to them anyway, just to see if that opened the doors? There are other better ways of trying to make those connections that isn't just sending something in the post. Go through and make sure that you're really aligned with each of those funders' priorities. Take time to research for new potential funders, or re-research the ones you've already identified, and that's a much better use of your time than applying to a trust where you just aren't a strong fit. And it's giving yourself that permission to pause and do that, really, when you're feeling the absolute kind of pressure to just continue sending out more and more and more. This information gives you permission to go, no, actually, these are what the statistics are telling us from the sector, and I'll be much better using my time to do all of this, so I can get out some really strong, well thought out and a good fit applications. So again, prioritize your warm funders. This is what this data is showing us. Don't take them for granted. Keep them close, update them, and nurture those relationships. When was the last time you sent them an update? A thank you from your beneficiaries? Have you invited them to come and have a look at your work? Have you got an event coming up that you can invite them to? Trusts aren't always the people we think about inviting. They might not come. In my experience, they don't always come, but they would appreciate the invite, and it's a good chance for you to give them an update of your project. Social media, are you giving them a shout out there, as long as you've checked that with them that that's okay to do? Sometimes we forget that trusts are more and more now on social media, particularly on LinkedIn. I've seen lots and lots of trusts popping up on LinkedIn and using that as a platform for themselves. So give them a name check on LinkedIn if they're okay with that. Show them and share with them the impact that their grant is having publicly. All of these gestures, even though they're really small, can add up when it's time to review your next steps and reapply. And then focus on quality over volume. Again, we've talked about this a lot so far. It's really easy to not resist the temptation to send off dozens of generic applications, because it feels like you're being productive. It feels like you're doing something. And again, that little person's on your shoulder saying we have to fit our KPIs, and we had to send out 100 applications in October, so I need to get on with them. Instead, you really need to focus on those where you are a great fit. Do you have all the information you need to show how good a fit you are? Or do you need to refresh your case studies? Do you need to have a look at your testimonials, your beneficiary feedback, or statistics to really, really demonstrate why you're a good fit? Are you using that funder's language in your applications? We all have our baseline applications, don't we? But rather than just changing the name on it and changing the amount that you're asking for, go back through it and make sure that you're reflecting that funder's language in your application, and that you're really spelling out, we think we fit your priorities because, and really demonstrate how you do and what the impact of that is. Now's the time to take a step back and assess what you might be missing. And keep yourself visible. Update your social media to show the impact your organisation is making and what your needs are. We're very good at saying, we've run this, daycare, we've been doing these things for mental health with our beneficiaries. But what you need to also think about is show what your needs are. What are you missing? What could you do if someone was to support you? Again, use funder language. So if there's a particular funder that doesn't accept unsolicited applications, but you think you are a really good fit, by using their language in your social media, on your posts, on your website, you will then start to pop up when they're doing their own research and looking for organisations that they can support, because they're looking for keywords from their own websites usually and their own priorities in the organisations that they want to support. Go to those Meet the Funder events. I share on LinkedIn, if you follow me, you'll see every month some of the Meet the Funder events that are taking place. Go to them, make the time to go to them. Ask your questions, get your organisation seen and known. If you ask a really good question to a funder where you fit their priorities, they're going to write your name down and have a look at you later on. It might not go any further than that for now, but just getting on their radar gets them thinking about you, gets them exploring what you're about, what you've got going on. And that's why it's important that your website and your social media are up to date. Check those relationships in-house. It's not just with your trustees, although those are really important. It's with your ambassadors, your volunteers, and even your staff. You do not know who might know somebody else. I've had some amazing conversations with people who have attended events that I had no idea that they were connected to a trust until we started talking. So, have those conversations. Have your top 10 list of trusts that you want to check the trustees of, and ask those questions, get those names and things out there and see who knows. And importantly, and again, this is what's changed in the last 20 years for me, is that you do now pick up the telephone wherever is possible, or email them if not, and get to know that funder. You introduce yourself, you've reached out, and before you've even put pen to paper, you've done all that research, you think you're going to be a good fit, and then you reach out to ask those questions if they're not already readily available, to introduce yourself and get to know that funder, and they get to know you too. All of this is so funders know who you are even before you apply, and you start to build those relationships. And that is what we're seeing from Caroline's figures and Lucy's figures. And that's what's getting the results at the minute in the sector. So I think knowing all this new information, going over some things we already know as trust fundraisers, but sometimes we get caught up in the, like I said, in the KPIs of it all, and knowing that that's income pressure is there, particularly at this time of year if you're heading towards your year end. It's a good time to pause and refresh your strategy. Trust fundraising is really hard at the moment, and it isn't always getting the investment within the organisations that it needs, either financially or giving the time you need to do everything we've just talked about, and that reflects Caroline and Lucy's findings. Take time to look at your successes and rejections from earlier on in the year. What do they tell you? Are your priorities still aligned with where the best opportunities are? Have things changed so much since you first did your strategy at the beginning of the year, since you set those targets? Now's the time to go back through and have a look to make sure that you're still either where you thought you were, or that things have changed a lot and you need to change now. And maybe this is the first time that you've had chance to review that. It's also worth reviewing your messaging. Does your case for support still feel sharp and relevant? And crucially, don't leave stewardship as an afterthought. Build it into your plans from the beginning. It's a core strand of your fundraising strategy, and it deserves time and attention. And now is the time to really build that into your strategy and into your pipeline going forward. Please do chip in if you've got any thoughts, if you've got any questions. What are your experiences of all of this? These are the things that I have done over the past, that I'm still doing now, and I'm working with clients that are really, bearing fruit and really showing signs of growth for some of the people that we're supporting. So, but it would be good to have your input and hear what you think as well. So one challenge we're already seeing growing this year is funders closing earlier than advertised. Isn't it really frustrating when they see this year all planned, ready to go, and then they close earlier? I think did the National Lottery do it recently? Was it the Million Hours that just closed really early? I've seen so many things. If you're in the Trust Fundraising Hub, you'll see lots of people put on really frustrated, head in hands. This one's now closed. I went to do it this morning and it's closed overnight, or I've been away on holiday and I've come back and it's closed sooner than advertised. So it's really, really frustrating. Sometimes it's because of high demand. Sometimes the funds have been allocated quicker than expected. I would think, where possible, I would like to see trust, rather than close early, communicate better with us as trust fundraisers and tell us that decisions will take longer because they've got more people to look through, rather than kind of closing it because we understand some trusts are really small and don't have the capacity, but we'd rather they take longer and we get a fair shot at being considered. I worry that people who maybe aren't as experienced and can write something very quickly that might not be a good fit, but they have something ready to go because they're using this scattergun approach, get theirs in earlier, and then someone who's been crafting for a long time and trying to make their priorities demonstrate how their priorities really fit might take a bit longer to pull something together. They close early and then they don't get considered. So is the quality of applications that are going in earlier the right ones to be looking at? I'm not saying that people that put them in earlier aren't very good and don't have all that information. Then it would, it just level the playing field a little bit more if we all had the same opportunity to be able to put those applications in, and if they would just keep the deadlines the same for us poor trust funders who are trying our very best to fit all of these deadlines, and just change how long they're going to take to consider them. So Julian says, just read on LinkedIn, John Lewis Foundation closed earlier, but looks like there was enough uproar for them to reopen with an extra day added to deadline, which is good. An extra day is something, but you would rather that they kept it open, wouldn't you? And they just changed kind of how long they would then take to consider everybody's. Deborah says, I do feel that if funders were more specific about what they will and won't fund, they won't be so inundated. Completely agree. I was looking at, I can't even remember the name of the trust now off the top of my head, but I was looking at a potential funder for a client the other day, and they were listed everywhere as a general funder. But then when I dug down into their accounts, which is why we're doing a session on accounts, there was more specifics in there about what they would fund. But some people who are a little bit more inexperienced or don't have the time to really dig down into their accounts would have missed that and thought, we're a general fundraiser, ours will fit. I need to be able to send applications out because I've got to hit these KPIs and I've got to try and get money in, and so would send something out to them. So they're inundated with organisations that they can't fund because it's not their priorities. But if they were more upfront and clearer about it, even on the charity commission page, it would stop so many people sending applications that just don't fit. It would absolutely help, Deborah. I am absolutely there for that one. So going back to funders closing earlier, my advice as much as possible is to keep your deadlines flexible. Prioritise those who have a disclaimer that they says that they might close earlier. Plan out each month so you can see exactly where you need to prioritise your time, and build in a buffer to your planning timeline so you're not caught out if a funder suddenly closes. I know many funders will let you continue with an application if you've made a start online. So even if that's just filling in your details, do that first and then continue to build your answers offline like you normally would. You know, as trust funders, we prefer to be able to download the questions, work on them offline, and then be able to fill our applications online in afterwards. But even if you're just putting your details into that form and starting that application so you can save it, come back to it later, in my experience, lots of funders are saying if you started, you can still finish that application. So that's worth considering. And stay alert, you know, check funder websites and updates regularly. Don't rely on old deadline information. You can set up Google alerts for particular keywords, or even just add into your calendar to do a daily 5-minute check to make sure that you haven't missed anything. Again, I know I talk about LinkedIn a lot, but it really is becoming the place to find out what's happening with trusts. Lots and lots of trusts are using LinkedIn as a way to communicate. So it's a good place to look. And also our Trust Fundraising Hub is another good place to look for update. You know, you do not want to be working on an application, do you? All that hard work and preparation to realise that you've missed the deadline because they've closed earlier. It's really frustrating. You've done all that brilliant research and you found a funder that's a really great fit, which is not always easy to do, and then they close early just when you're in the middle of writing that application. It can be really demoralising, and as trust fundraisers are very good at keeping ourselves self-motivated and upbeat, but you do kind of, like I said, head in hands when this kind of thing happens. And I do think more funders, you know, the John Lewis Foundation, Julian shared with us, you know, has at least thought and open for an extra day, but that's a lot of headaches that they've created by closing earlier beforehand that didn't need to. For an already stressful trust fundraiser, just didn't need that on their plate that day. And I do wish they'd moved their internal deadlines for providing an outcome rather than close early. If they managed expectations better and just took a little bit longer to process things, I'm sure we wouldn't mind if we thought we were getting a fair chance at having our application assessed. So just to wrap up this little section, from all the information that I've talked about today, relationships and stewardship are really the key drivers of success. This is something we've known for a little while now, but I think the fact that Caroline's report shows that warm approaches are 3 times more likely to succeed than cold ones, now's the time to really sit up and listen. And having this information, like we've talked about, is good for having those internal conversations, and opening up those dialogues of communication about what you need as trust fundraisers, to do a really good job and have the best possible success that you could do. Autumn is a really good time to take stock and refresh your strategy. Focus on quality over quantity. I know that's really, really difficult if you've got that pressure that we've talked about on you. And try and keep your pipeline as flexible as possible. Do those daily checks. Keep checking in with your peers to see what's going on in the sector. Use LinkedIn. So it's over to you now. Does anybody have any questions that they'd like us to talk about? Any reflections on anything that I've shared with you today? Are there any challenges that you're facing this autumn in your trust fundraising that you just want to share? You want to get off your chest? You want some advice with? There's lots of us here with many collective years of experience in trust fundraising. So if I can't help or can't answer, then I'm sure someone in the chat will be able to. So if anybody has any questions, anything that they'd like to have a chat about, any reflections from anything that we've just gone through, please do feel free to share in the chat, or pop your video on or just your audio microphone if you'd prefer, and share with us. I think this is a really, really interesting report that Caroline shared with us. Hi Louise, have you got a question? No? Did I see a hand up? No, maybe not. Did I? Yes, I did. Hi, Louise.
Sorry, hello. Yeah,
okay.
I was happily chatting away on mute. So I didn't hear all the presentation, I'm afraid, but I did pick up on you saying for all of us to give permission to ourselves to not do everything and apply to everything if there isn't a sufficient fit. There was a deadline on Friday that I had wanted to apply to, and there's a reasonable fit. We've applied a couple of times before, unsuccessfully during the year. And then just, other things come in and need looking at, and not proposal development, but reporting and other stuff. And 9 p.m. that night, I was thinking, do you think they'd still accept an application? And then I thought, right, shut up. It's Friday night. Pour yourself a glass of wine. It's fine. You've really missed it. And that whole permission thing is tied up with all the, sometimes we put a lot of expectation on ourselves to be all things to all people when it comes to trust deadlines and stuff. So so I wanted to say that I really heard that, and I thought, yes, I'll give myself permission to just do what I can, but also then plan better. I thought I had a week to do this application, and it turns out I didn't. So
yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's really great. And not that you were thinking at 9 o'clock, I must get this done, but you didn't. That's the key point. You didn't.
Yeah, no, I just had a wine. Yeah.
That's much better. Much better use of your time. I think it is, and we are so hard on ourselves. We have that internal pressure on ourselves, because we feel like we should be bringing this income in, and we often get asked, I know more and more now, to find core fundraising, core funding, which isn't traditionally something that trusts are good at giving. But I think where other funding streams are struggling, individual giving, because of the cost of living crisis and everything that we're facing, in our home lives, we don't have as much money in our pockets. So they're looking for trust funding to fill some of those gaps. And I think that puts a lot of pressure on us to be able to go, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to do what I know is best, and what I've been taught to do, all the things that I've learned to do, everything that I've been told today, all these reports are showing me these things. It's being kind to ourselves, isn't it? Joanna, you've got your hand up too.
Hello.
Hello.
I just wanted to pick up on LinkedIn just to share a little story. So I've been fundraising for an organisation for about 12 years, and I built up my LinkedIn connections solidly during that time. And it came to as a big foundation that was invitation only. And I decided to spend time, and I went through all the connections that were working for that organization and found somebody who I'd met 7 years ago, who's a marketing person who is now working for doing the marketing for this
Amazing.
foundation. They'd moved geographically, everything, but I was still connected with them. So I messaged them once and got a reply, and then I messaged again and said, could you give me an introduction to someone? Could I send you a case for support? There was silence for a while. And anyway, on the fourth message, I've just now had an introduction to apply to a big foundation that's invitation only. Amazing. Purely by keeping up my LinkedIn contacts and checking, just checking all the people on that foundation that I could find that were attached to it to see if I was linked with them. And the interesting thing I'm finding is I've been training two younger fundraisers, and they seem very resistant to using social media, which seems a bit sort of upside down. I mean, I'm trying to get them to understand that spend even 10-15 minutes a day on LinkedIn, liking, checking, sending, connecting, looking at all the people I'm connected with. It's quite an uphill battle. And it's almost like the younger generation's kind of done with a lot of this social media, or I don't know.
I think that's true. No, I agree. My daughter is 15 and she doesn't go on Facebook or LinkedIn or anything like that anymore. No. But I always think LinkedIn isn't that social media. It's more of a professional network. But I think younger people still see it as tagged as social media and are reluctant to do it. But actually, stories like you've just shared show how good it is to have those connections and take the time to go through who you might know, even if it's from 7 years ago. You never know where those connections might lead you.
Yeah, I'm hoping that this will inspire them, but I feel like I need to actually sit with them with LinkedIn open and say, come on.
Yeah.
And I see Louisa said same about making phone calls. Well, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The young 20-somethings and the phone just don't. It's an oxymoron, really.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's really difficult, but it's the only way that people are going to get moving forward, isn't it? If they can do it. It's all about having the confidence. I always say if you try it and get a few knockbacks, just stop for a while. And then try again. There's no point putting yourself through that. Continuous rejection.
I get them to start with fairly cold funders. I said, look, we're not going to get money from them anyway, so the worst can happen is we still won't get any money from them. The best is that we will get some money. So just think that and once they try to get them to do that on cold funders before they actually have the pressure of calling someone that's a warm prospect or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for sharing that, Joanna. That's really, really good to hear. I'm glad to hear LinkedIn has worked well for you. I think that's a lesson for us all to keep going, to keep trying. I'm just going to have a quick look at the chat just to see if I've missed anything. Rachel says, I have definitely begun to accept the things that I cannot change and just do what I can with what I have. We can only do what we can. We all have challenges and it isn't easy. Completely agree. We've got to be so kind to ourselves. We are our toughest critics, aren't we? We do put the most pressure on ourselves to perform and to fill all those gaps and to hit all those deadlines and refresh our pipelines and find those case studies. Sometimes you're only a one-man band. There's only one of you trying to do all these things, and we have to put our time and energy where we're going to get the best results. Kimberly, do you know if there's one document platform that lists success rates per trust funder? I've seen rates published here and there, and I appreciate this will change for each round. No, and many trusts don't actually publish their success rates. Some really good in the knowledge trusts have started to do that if they have their own websites. There is a spreadsheet floating around that I've seen shared on the Trust Fundraising Hub, and someone will help me by putting a link very handily to that in the chat for me, because you're all amazing and you know these things off the top of your head, and I cannot think who it is. If I can't find it now or someone doesn't share it, I will find it and I'll put it on my LinkedIn. I'll put a post on there with the spreadsheet, and people are filling that in as and when they're informed about success rates, so there can be one central place that everybody can have a look, because success rates help us decide whether to go for that trust or not, don't they? They help us make that decision. If we have 3 or 4 trusts but only a finite amount of time to apply, we're going to look at the ones that are the best fit first, and then look at the ones where the success rates are the best where we can. So I'm sure somebody someone will do that. And look, yes, Joanna made reference to Louise saying same with making phone calls. It's like, no thanks. Yeah, it's something, you know, my daughter, like I said, my daughter's 15. She would never think to make a phone call. It's all voice notes and text messaging, or they don't even text. They use WhatsApp all the time. Oh, thank you, Gemma. That's probably the one. I knew one of you lovely people would have it. That's the one I was thinking of. Thank you. Bless you. That's really kind of you. It's the one thing I didn't think to get ready. I had it in the back of my head that someone would probably ask that question, and I forgot to pick up the link. So thank you. Yes, that's exactly the spreadsheet that I was thinking of. It's really helpful just to be able to have a look, isn't it, in context with Caroline's and Lucy's data as well, to help you make those choices. If you haven't got lots and lots of time, knowing where to put your best bet is really, really helpful. Fantastic. Has anybody got anything else that they want? Any successes anybody would like to share with us? That I think, was it July? I said that was the last time we had. So I had the Google Sheet open all the time, so it's easy to find. I'm like that with spreadsheets. If I find a good spreadsheet, I just pin it into my dashboard or into my online Google or something, so that I always know where it is. So thank you. Thank you for that. It's exactly what I wanted. I knew someone would come to my rescue and find it for me. I appreciate that. I'm just checking that I haven't missed anybody's hand up or any questions in the chat. Fantastic. Well, I hope you've all found this really useful. When I came across Caroline's report, I just thought this is something that we need to have a discussion around and need to have a look at and share, because I do think if you're having those internal conversations, this is something that you can really use to kind of show where you need support with, and you need to be able to spend your time doing these really good things. An organisational win. Oh, where's that? Everything's moving too quickly. Louise, an organisation win, our annual accounts are ready ahead of time for the first time in 3 years. That is amazing and so helpful, because I bet you've been waiting for those accounts to be able to do what you need to do.
It has prevented us applying for things, but also obviously it looks rubbish on the Charity Commission website. But it does relate to a massive merger of 2 quite large INGOs.
Okay.
So it's all for good reason. Like, there's always been a reason why. It's all complicated entities and stuff. But yeah, so we're ahead of it finally.
That's amazing.
So it feels like I've got no excuses now, basically. I've got the accounts. But
it's a little win, isn't it? It's like tick it in the little win pile. So it's really helpful. Thank you for sharing that with us. Yeah, I've returned to work from mat leave and things have been a bit challenging. This has helped. So, oh, you're so welcome, Nicole. I'm glad that you found it helpful. I think that's what I love best about this group and getting together monthly, is that it can just give us that little boost. It's so hard, especially if you're working on your own, to keep yourself motivated, isn't it, and keep yourself going. So this little group and our Trust Fundraising Hub Facebook group, they keep me going. So I'm glad it keeps you going as well. We will continue the conversation over on LinkedIn. If you're not already connected with me, please do share any feedback that you have for us, anything you'd like to see covered in these sessions. Please do. I'm always up for suggestions, anything that you'd like to go through. As always, these sessions are for you. And by having your input and questions and experience, that's what really helps shape them. Before you go, here's all of our monetary fundraising social media contacts. So if you did want a little bit of an extra help, you want someone to have a look at your trust fundraising program or help with some applications, we'd be really up for doing that with you and having a conversation about how we can help. So here on screen are all of the different ways that you can contact us, and always reach out to me on LinkedIn if you have any questions. You should all have my email address from signing up to this session, So you can always reach out to me that way as well if you've got any questions. So thank you so much, everybody, for your time today. I've missed doing these so much, so it was so lovely to get us all back together. And now these will be regular again up until Christmas, when we'll have another break, and then we'll go back in again in January. So the October date will be the 21st of October, same time, 12 noon. And if you're signed up to our monetary fundraising newsletter, you'll get the information when the sign up comes out for that, but a date for your diary in the meantime. So thank you so much, everybody. Have a fantastic rest of the week. Enjoy the rest of your day, and thanks so much for joining me today. Take care, everyone. You're doing amazingly. Well done. See you soon, everyone. Take care. Bye.